Every business leader that I speak to asks me the same question. That question is, why is hiring so much harder now? And when I tell them the answer, they usually just lean back and stay quiet for a moment, just thinking on my answer, absorbing the information, and realizing its truth. Because most people think it's just the talent market, or it's the economy, or that everyone's competing over the same small pool of candidates. But none of those are the real reason. What actually happened is this: hiring has fundamentally changed in 2026. And most companies are still trying to hire the way that they did in 2021. See, back in 2021, companies hired for growth, fast, aggressive, volume-based. The type of thinking that led to, we need 20 people by the end of this quarter, no matter what. In 2026, companies hire for productivity, precision, impact, ROI. The type of thinking that leads to, we need 3 people who can each deliver $2 million in revenue. So what drove that shift? And here's what most people just fail to realize. It's actually 5 separate factors, and they all hit the hiring market at the same exact time. Now let's quickly break down those 5 factors. The first one is technology, of course. AI and automation made A players exponentially more productive, meaning one great engineer with the right tools can now do the work of 5 average engineers. So companies started asking a different question. Why hire 5 average people when one A player can deliver more? And the second factor is experience. Not candidate experience, company's experience. See, companies learned a brutal lesson from the 2021 hiring binge. And I mean brutal. They were thinking, let's hire fast and we'll figure the rest out later. But later meant layoffs, restructuring, and millions of dollars wasted. Now, they learned which roles actually drove revenue, which hires were worth the investment, and of course, which ones were just expensive mistakes. So they started thinking more carefully about who they hired and how they hired them. The third factor is economics. Money isn't cheap anymore. Interest rates went up, funding evaporated, and every hire now has to justify their ROI. In 2021, you could afford to make hiring mistakes. In 2026, one bad hire can cost you 6 months of productivity and derail your entire growth for that year. Now, the fourth factor is candidate expectations. This is a big one. Top talent stopped looking for just a paycheck. In 2026, they want remote flexibility, they want career growth, they want meaningful work, and if you can't offer that, they'll go somewhere that can. And the fifth factor is competition. Everyone is fighting for the same top 10% of A players. And the best candidates at any given time have multiple offers to consider. They're pickier about where they go, and they're evaluating you just as much as you're evaluating them. All right, so here's what happened. When all 5 of those factors hit all at the same time, better technology, smarter companies, tighter economics, higher candidate expectations, and fiercer competition, they created something completely new. It's a fundamentally different approach to building teams. Now, I call it productivity hiring, and here's what that means. Expansion hiring is dead. Productivity hiring is the future. And if you don't understand this shift, all of it, you're gonna lose the hiring battle. Now, if you're new here, my name is Jared Black. I'm the founder of New Vine Employment Group. And here on this channel, I share actionable recruiting strategies that help business leaders just like you attract and hire top talent. Now, without the guesswork, without the costly mistakes, without the years of trial and error. All right, so before we jump into it, let me paint you a picture of what 2021 hiring landscape actually looked like. Because if you're in the thick of it, you just might not remember how insane it actually was. So thinking back, 2020, the pandemic hit. Companies were scrambling, millions of people were laid off, unemployment spiked to over 15%, and for most of 2020, hiring completely froze. Companies were in survival mode. But then late 2020, early 2021, things started to shift. The recovery has started. Money was cheap, interest rates were near zero, and venture capital started flowing again. In fact, over $300 billion in funding in the US in 2021 alone. Every company that survived was now growing. And job openings exploded from somewhere around 7 million at the start of 2021 to over 11 million by the end of the year. So everyone was hiring, and they were hiring fast, aggressive, in volume. Startups, they doubled their headcount in months. Mid-market companies, they were adding entire departments, and even the enterprises were hiring at a pace that they had never seen before. The mentality was very simple: just grow at all costs, hire now, figure it out later. And here's how crazy it got. I know people who were working 3, sometimes 4 full-time jobs remotely, multiple laptops set up on their desk, juggling multiple calendars, hopping between different Zoom meetings, one laptop for company A, another laptop for company B, a third for company C, and companies had no idea. It's because everyone was moving so fast, no one was paying attention to performance. They just needed bodies in the seats. And if you didn't hire fast, someone else would. And if you didn't offer top dollar, candidates would essentially walk. It was truly expansion hiring. And for a while, it felt like it worked. But then 2022 hit, interest rates went up, funding dried up, revenue growth slowed down, and suddenly companies looked around and realized we overhired. They had more people than they needed, they had more management layers than they needed, and more complexity than they could handle. So the layoffs started. You remember Meta, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, tens of thousands of people were let go. And it wasn't just tech, it was everywhere. And that was the wake-up call. So what does this actually mean for you today? It means if you're still hiring like it's 2021, you're gonna struggle because the rules have changed. And I wanna walk you through the 4 biggest shifts that you need to understand. Now, the first shift is this: you're hiring for impact, not headcount. So let me give you an example. Last year, I worked with a SaaS company with a sales team of about 15 people. And at the time, their revenue was a bit flat. So the CEO wanted to hire more people. He called me and he said, I need to hire 5 more salespeople. But I asked him a simple question: how many of your current 15 are actually hitting quota? After a long pause, he answered, maybe 6. So what I advised is look at performance before we start adding to the headcount. So once we identified the KPIs and we separated the top performers from the bottom performers, they were able to identify what the bottom 9 weren't doing that the top 6 were. So once we got that process cleaned up, we started to look on hiring again. But then we didn't need 5 people. We just needed 1 or 2 every quarter. So by looking at his process and getting the bottom 9 closer to standard, whether it's training, coaching, better tools, whatever, he was able to efficiently hire, not for headcount, but for productivity. That's the shift. The old thinking is more people equals more results. The new thinking is better people, better results. You're not hiring to fill seats. You're hiring to create impact. Every hire should have a clear answer to this question: what measurable outcome will this person drive? If you can't answer that, you're not ready to hire. The second shift is this: the bar for good enough just got higher. Way higher. You see, in expansion mode, companies hired anyone who can do the job. They would think, hey, they're qualified, let's bring them on. In productivity mode, that doesn't cut it anymore. You see, you're not looking for someone who can just do the job. You're looking for someone who can do the job exceptionally well. And that means being crystal clear on what exceptional actually means for that specific role. And I've seen companies struggle with this. They'll go through 15 or 20 candidates and just can't make a decision. And usually that's not because the candidates aren't good enough. It's because the company isn't aligned on what they're actually looking for. When that happens, here's what I tell them: either get aligned on the exact requirements, or you can restructure the role and break it down into maybe 2 or 3 separate positions with clearer responsibilities. Because productivity hiring requires precision, not perfection. And you need to know exactly what success looks like in that role. You need to work backwards with the end in mind. What outcomes are you hiring for? What skills are non-negotiable? And when you're dialed in on that, you can move fast without compromising on quality. That's productivity hiring. Now, the third shift is this: retention became as important as acquisition, maybe even more important, because in expansion mode, companies were so focused on hiring that they forgot all about retention. They would think, hey, we'll figure out culture later. Right now, let's just get the bodies. But here's what they learned the hard way: every bad hire costs way more than just their salary. It costs you time, management bandwidth, team morale, and if they quit or get fired 6 months later, you're back to square one again. So in productivity mode, companies started asking different questions. Will this person stay? Will they grow with us? Are they aligned with our culture and values? And on that last one, culture and values alignment, it's super critical. It's actually one of the core pillars of my approach to hiring A players, because skills can be taught, experience that can be gained, but if someone doesn't share your values, they will never truly fit within your organization. And I see it all the time. Companies are investing heavily in culture, career development, and employee experience before they even post a new job, because they realize it's easier to keep a great employee than it is to replace them. And productivity hiring means you're not just filling a role, you're building a team that will last. And if you want to go a bit deeper on that, I've actually put together a completely free guide. It walks you through my entire methodology for hiring A players, including how to assess for values alignment. I've gone ahead and attached the link in the description box below, and you can grab that right after this video. Now, the fourth shift is this: precision replaced speed. Let me explain what I mean. In expansion mode, the strategy was Hire fast, figure it out later. Post a job, review hundreds of resumes, interview a handful, and make offers to almost all of them. You would now overwhelm your HR and your onboarding experience and then have to repeat the whole process 60 days later. In productivity mode, it's the complete opposite. Companies are taking their time. They're being deliberate. They're using data to make their decisions, and they're asking, does this person fit? Can they actually deliver the outcomes that we need? Will they still be valuable 2 years from now? And they're using technology to help them answer those questions. You'll see things like AI helping screening resumes for specific skills, certain assessments to verify technical experience or capabilities, and structured interviews to measure their culture fit. But that final decision is still very much human. Because like we said, it isn't just about filling a seat. It's about finding someone who can drive a measurable impact. Now, here's the biggest problem that I'm seeing today. Most companies that I speak to know that they need to make a shift towards productivity hiring, but they just don't know how. They're still using expansion era tactics, posting a job and hoping for the best, then hiring the first person who looks the most qualified on paper, and then they measure the success based on how fast they fill the role instead of the impact that the hire has created. And that is a losing equation because productivity hiring requires a completely different approach, one built on precision, systems, and expertise that most companies just don't have in-house. You just can't wing it anymore. You need to know exactly who you're looking for, how to find them, and how to close them once you do find them. So what are the winning companies doing today? Well, I'll tell you, they're building systems. And here's what that looks like. They're not scrambling to fill roles when someone quits or a role opens up. They're proactively building pipelines of A players before they need them. They're always recruiting. They're always keeping feelers out in the market. They're always building relationships with top talent. And they're using data to measure what's working. They're tracking where their candidates drop off in the process. They're optimizing every step of the way, and they're combining that technology with human expertise. So it looks something like this. AI handles discovery and engagement, automation handles the scheduling, and then the human focus on the relationship building, selling the vision, and closing the deal. And the last piece of the equation, eventually you start to cycle out the bottom performers. Not all at once, but gradually, because these winning companies understand that you don't want to have high turnover, but you do want to continuously improve your team. So sometimes that means making a tough decision about who stays and who goes. And that's how you win in 2026. Now, here's the truth. Expansion hiring, it's dead. And many companies learn the hard way that volume doesn't equal results. Productivity hiring is the future. And it's not just about one thing. Technology made A players more valuable. Companies, they just got smarter about the process. Economics have forced a lot of discipline. Candidates got a lot pickier. And competition has gotten extremely fierce. All of that happened at one time. And if you're still measuring success by your headcount instead of the impact, then you're going to fall behind. I'll say it again. The companies that win are the ones that treat every hire as a strategic investment that has to deliver measurable results. That's the game today. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, I get it, Jared, but I just don't have the time to build this system myself. Trust me, you're not alone. But that's exactly what we help companies solve. Throughout our suite of products, we combine the power and efficiency of AI with human expert recruiters to execute productivity hiring at scale. We build the pipeline, we handle the sourcing, we filter the candidates, and we deliver you qualified A players ready to create measurable impact. And if you want to learn more, go ahead and book a discovery call with my team. I've gone ahead and dropped the link in the description box below. And if you want to understand why your hiring process feels harder than it should, I want you to watch this video next. It's titled, If You Hate Recruiting, Your System is Broken. I'll go ahead and I'll link it right here. Just go ahead and watch it next, because even if you understand the productivity shift, you still need a system that actually works. And hey, if you got value from this video, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. It helps more business leaders just like you find this type of content. It also helps us learn what you like so we can keep making more videos just like this. Thanks for watching. And remember, expansion hiring is dead. Productivity hiring is the future. It's time to adapt. Thanks for watching.